How you enable it? So first off, Vast Catalog has been with the product since 4.6. We've been adding some enhancements here and there as we go along with that. Again, it's a standard feature. There is no additional licensing that is required for this. It is literally turn it on, you have it available to go through and index it. So the way you go through and enable this is from the VMS GUI. You can also do this from the CLI as well if you wish to. But from the VMS GUI, you go into Settings, Vast Catalog, and say activate the Vast Catalog. That's all it is. Click down here, click the toggle, and activate that. It'll go through and it'll ask you some questions. First off, it's going to say how many frames do we wish to go through and use. And a frame is going to be a snapshot of data that we're going to go through and load into the database there, how often we want to go through and do it, and then how much of that we want to go through and keep. Now, relatively speaking, the amount of metadata compared to the element store as a whole, is not going to be that terribly much, but it does consume some amount of space on there with that. So it's not unlimited by that, but it's not very large with it. So within reason, however, how much data you want to go through and keep is totally up to you. You do have the option here with this to go through and say, hey, I also want to store the file system snapshots along with this. So that, again, I can go through when I index into the catalog, or I look at the catalog, I can actually then go through and go into a snapshot and get the file that is represented from that time there. That obviously is going to take more space because you're locking down that data in a snapshot. So if you delete it, it's going to still be there containing the snapshot, but you have controls over going through and doing that. So once you go through and you set that up, you determine how often you're taking these frames, whether you're going to keep the snapshots with the data snapshots with it, along with the how long you're going to keep this data around. You go through and just hit save, and it'll go through and do some processing. Now, this initial processing time will take a bit of time to go through and run. The amount of time it's going to go through and take is dependent upon the amount of data that's in there, the size of the cluster for this. Like anything, regarding, like if you're doing an initial replication or something like that, it takes that first initial run there takes a bit more time because it has to go through and do a bulk load of things, of everything that's in there. Now, as we go through and as those additional frames are run after that initial processing takes place, that happens relatively quickly because, like snapshots and like replication, we can determine very, very easily the delta of data that needs to be changed and only modify or only update those entries that have data that has changed. For that. So the initial load may take time. It could take, likely will take, a few hours to go through and do that initial index as things get loaded up. Again, it's going to be very much subject to the size of the cluster, the number of files and objects that you have on there, with that. But once that's done, then it's available to go through and use. Now, there's some other additional items here you can do, and you can see that on that screen there, is that if you wish to go through and define some custom tags that you want to index explicitly. So with things like the S3 tags, as I mentioned, those can be stored within a single tags column to go through and put them all together. It winds up being a complex JSON object in a single cell, so you pull out the whole JSON there. But if you wish to go through and index this as a specific column, you can do that by just adding these user-defined attributes for there, where the type is going to be tag and the column name is going to be the name of the tag that you have in there, and then you can search these for this. Now, this doesn't have to be done initially. You can add these tags later on, and they'll get brought in the next time that the index runs, the next frame goes through and runs. So definitely not something you have to do first. You can add those in later.